Hello, it's Mike. Today it's minus 12 degrees Fahrenheit. That's about minus 24 degrees Celsius, just mercury without even the wind chill factor. But I still want to go outside. I want to go skiing today, and so I got to get dressed. And so many of my friends told me, hey Mike, how do I dress for this? So I'm going to give you a video today to tell you how to do that. And we're going to do it in layers. We're going to dress in layers. Now the reason that we dress in layers when we're going to do active things is so we can put more layers on quickly or take it off. So a lot of times when you're standing around, taking a break, getting ready to go, it's colder. So you put on more clothes, like for example this down vest I have on. But then when you start going, skiing or whatever it is you're doing, you get hot. So you got to be able to take it off, maybe put it in your backpack, and then you stop for lunch, you put it back on. So that's mainly why we're dressing in layers. If you're doing things where you're not really that active and sweating and building up heat, things like maybe, for example, snowmobiling or ice fishing, you don't really have to dress in layers. In those you might take a really big, thick one-piece jumper, for example. But if you're going to be active, skiing, skating, snowshoeing, hiking in the outdoor snow, that's when we want to do layers. And one of the things we want to think about is we want to dress so that we're not so bulky, you know, that we're moving. So if we put on big, thick jackets, puffy things, you can't really move around. So this is why we want to dress, you can see here, more thin and more movable kind of active wear. Another thing I'm going to say, of all the materials, never ever cotton. Polyester, fine. Wool, excellent. But never cotton. And never rayon, because rayon is made out of cellulose. So rayon, cotton, never. Because they get wet and they don't dry off, and they cling, that cold wetness is sticking to your body. So you want things that are going to wick and take the moisture away. Natural things. Silk is beautiful, especially as an undergarment. So silk, wool, poly, you know, those are some of the great materials that you're looking for. And when we say wool, that can include, of course, lamb's wool, Angora, which is my absolute favorite. You hear of merino, well, that's obviously also kind of a sheep's wool. Angora especially Angora from rabbits. Oh, lovely, lovely stuff. You know, so these are some of the natural fibers I love. I'm going to teach you now how to dress in layers. We're going to do that inside. Alright, let's talk about dressing in layers for active sports. So, first of all, I feel quite naked. I've never felt so naked. This is my first base layer. Now, of course, under my polyester leggings or tights, I have another pair of underwear, just regular underwear. But everything's poly or wool or silk, no cotton, as I mentioned before. So, just to get started, let's start from the bottom up. This is a very, very thin pair of polyester socks. Look at this. You see how thin that is? So maybe I'll try to get closer. You can see very thin. No substance to it at all. Almost like a pair of nylons. And then, so my what I'm wearing underneath is my long bottoms. The very best is merino wool. But merino wool is very expensive. So there's other things you can use. For example, this is a pair of tights that is available at Sam's Club for about 10 bucks. These are women's tights, and guess what, fellows? You can wear women's tights. They also happen to have a nice pocket in them. I kind of like that. But these are all poly. I think there's some lycra in it, but yes, nylon and spandex. These work perfectly fine. 10 bucks, you can't beat it. For sizing, fellows, it looks like it's about the same. If you take a an L or an XL in men's size. Apparently L or XL in women's will fit about the same. Another thing you might use, these are bicycle pants. These work good too. I like bicycle pants for wearing when I go outside. They also happen to have zippers at the ankles, which makes it easy for getting, you know, in and out of your clothes. Next layer, this is my top. This is merino wool, if you can afford it. If you can't, you can use some kind of poly. But it's got more substance to it, a little bit warmer. But remember, you don't want to use thick clothing because that's bulky and you're not going to have the movement you're looking for. So you're better off to have more layers of a little bit thinner fabric than to have something real thick. Now watch this. We talked about doing layers. I'm going to take this and I'm going to tuck it underneath my my bottom. I'm going to do that for both layers. This one and then this as well. I'll go all the way around so that my pants hold my shirt in. Otherwise, while I'm moving, this shirt will tend to pull up. So I want to try to use my pants to hold my shirt down as I'm active. So we put on our thin layer of socks, and then on top of that we put our long underwear. And if you have anything like leg braces, make sure you put that on first too. So leg braces, thin socks, then go your wool socks. And when you put wool socks on, remember, here's how it goes. You roll them down, roll and pull, roll and pull, roll. When you get down to the heel and you're going to put that on your foot, make sure that you're putting your sock on so that the foot part is down, so you don't have to put them on and find out you got your sock upside down. Now here's a critical thing. It's very important that your socks are not so thick that when you put your boot on, your shoe on, then your shoe is tight because your socks are too thick. If your socks are thick and your foot is tight in your boot, you're going to have cold feet no matter how many layers of socks you have on or how thick. Make sure that your feet you can wiggle your toes. And here's a link to a video that I made how to put your boots on with socks and everything. So when you're putting your socks on, first of all, make sure that there's no wrinkles, especially around the toe. Put it on and roll it up. You don't have to have long socks. I just happen to have long socks. I love them if you got them. These are Angora. In my opinion, Angora wool, Angora socks are the very finest you can get. I think they're better than merino wool, but they're expensive. And you can see these. I've darned them several times to fix holes because they're expensive, but 40 bucks a pair, something like that. After that comes your pants. Now I like wool, but you can also have poly. The problem with wool is, of course, that if it's snowing heavy, that wetness can get through your pants, and whereas if you wore poly or nylon pants, they may be a little bit more water repellent. These are called jodhpur pants. You can see that they're bulky in loose in the thighs, but they're tight in the calf and around the ankle. Now what is nice about these, or as an alternative knickers, lovely, is that your cuffs don't hang down into the snow and get full of snow or get wet and freeze up, for example. Also, this gives you really excellent motion. You don't have to wear jodhpur or knickers, but it's old school. For a reason they did this, and I love them. So then and of course bulky creates you a dead air space in there. Loose, very nice. If you don't have a lot of dough, but you want to have wool pants, look at this. 10 bucks for a whole suit at a thrift store. And these are wool. Look inside, 100% wool, or maybe a wool poly blend. Perfect. You know, doesn't cost you much money. You can trim them up and turn them into knickers if you want. Next is what goes over this. Now remember, we want to keep our clothes from being bulky. If we want to put more on, we put it on another shell and hopefully another thin shell. And don't make whatever you put on so tight that you can't move or that it's compressing. Now this is just a shell. I'm not wearing a thick coat, because remember, if I wear a thick heavy coat and I'm skiing, I'm building up steam and getting hot, now what are my choices? I can't just unzip my coat because it's still too hot. I take it off, put it in my backpack, it fills up my whole pack. You don't need that. You just need something to cut the wind. Something like this. Nice. There we go. And then I have, this is a down vest. I take the down vest, I put it in my pack. It compresses real small, as you can see. That's the beauty of down. And if I need it, like let's say I stop for lunch or take a break, I can take this out, and this is, I make this an XXL. It's a big size for me, a little bit bigger than I need, because I can put it over the outside of my clothes. I can have it either under or over, but if I just want to put it over, it works both ways. So there we go, XXL for me, for you. For headwear, my preference in very cold weather is always a balaclava. And I don't wear a thick balaclava, I wear a thin one. This is just poly silk. I've had real silk, which I really love, but they're a little bit harder to get and more expensive. So I buy these, you can see, poly silk. And I put it on. It goes around my neck. I make sure that it's down all the way and there's no exposed skin. When you're in really cold weather, anything that's exposed to the air and the wind will be infinitely painful. So you can see this covers me up well. I can cover up as high as I want or pull it down. Generally I wear glasses, so if I pull this up, my glasses fog up, so I usually have it down around my chin. For headwear, typically I like a brim hat. And you can see that I have a leash on my brim hat. And the reason for that is that while I'm skiing, if I get hot, all I got to do is knock my hat off. I know it's still there. So I like a brim hat for a couple of reasons. First of all, it keeps the sunshine out of my eyes. And second of all, of course, you're outside. So chances are it's going to be snowing or it could snow. And the brim hat keeps the snow out of my face and off my glasses. As an alternative, of course, a knit cap is warmer. I think for myself personally, because I run hot, I rarely wear a knit cap. I rarely ever need it, even when the temperatures are sub-zero. But you know, if you're one of those people that gets cold fast, the best way to keep your whole body warmer is by putting a hat on your head. What do they say? I don't know if it's true. 25% of your heat loss is lost through your head. Well, all right then. Next is handwear. The warmest handwear by far is a mitten. You can have finger gloves, but there's nothing warmer than a mitten. Of course, they're a little bit clumsy. You can't do anything with your hands with your mittens on, but for warmth, you can't beat it. Now, here's a little trick. If you take a thin glove, and you put this thin glove on first, and then put your mitten on over that, then when you pull your mitten off, you need to do something. You can pull your mitten off and still have your hands covered in the, if it's real windy and cold. It's critical though that inside your hands are not trapped. You want them to be nice and loose. You want to have dead airspace in there so that your hands don't get cold. It's the dead airspace that keeps your hand and your whole body warm. So nothing tight. You don't want anything to be tight. Okay, so pull it off. Look at it. I can use my hands. So if you want finger gloves, then you need to have good gloves. I don't think single piece gloves are that effective. This is my favorite pair of gloves. They're almost worn out. They're all taped and repaired because I haven't been able to replace them or find anything as good. This is a three-piece system. And how this works is the one glove, and then you've got another glove that this is the vapor barrier glove here, this yellow one. And then these all go inside of this shell. I love these gloves. These are old gloves though. But man, these are warm gloves. I have been in some terrible weather with these gloves and they've held up. You can see they've been repaired and repaired. And then finally is our boots. And there's all kinds of footwear we're not going to get into today. I prefer leather with nice solid soles on them. These are what I use for cross-country skiing, whether I'm going back country, heavy-duty bush, or I'm even skiing on the trail. I just like that solidness, and to me the extra weight doesn't matter. But the important thing is make sure that your boots are comfortable. They're not too tight. They should give you good support so your foot's not slipping around in there. Again, this is a link to about footwear, that including socks and boots and how to tie your boots. It's an interesting video I made. Have a look at this. So, one more thing before I forget. And it's good to have a beautiful dog along with you too, to help keep you warm, just in case. But if you're lucky enough, anything that's exposed to the air is going to freeze painfully so if you are in extreme conditions. And then goggles. Especially the wind's blowing, it's minus whatever, minus 10, minus 20. Goggles are really imperative. I've had it so cold that my eyes would freeze shut. The moisture on my eyelids would freeze together while I was outside, and I had to put my hands on my eyelids to melt the snow on my eyelashes so I could open them. So it's a good idea to have goggles on as well. And then you'll notice that my nose is exposed. Well, what do you do about that? There are face protectors that cover your nose, but another thing that you can do is take some Vaseline and put Vaseline on your nose and your lips and anything that might be exposed, so that that will help but not completely prevent that area from freezing, especially getting windburn. My ears are covered. My lips are covered. The only thing I got exposed is my nose. Very dangerous. I should point out that in really cold weather, sub-zero, your skin can freeze without pain. So when you're above zero in the teens, 20, you'll feel yourself getting cold. It's uncomfortable. But when you start to get below zero, below 10, like minus 20, and the wind's blowing, your skin and your fingertips, your nose, will freeze so fast that you won't even feel it. That's happened to me. It's very, very dangerous that you suddenly realize that you've got frostbite without even knowing it. this is generally the how to dress in layers and why we do it. And I hope that this is interesting for you. And if you have any questions, I left anything out, just leave me a message down below and I'll answer it for you. Thanks. Let's go out and have a wonderful time out in the wilderness.